While loop. The while loop is used to repeat a block of code until a condition is met. To use while loop, we bring the keyword while, then the condition. It can be while age greater than 3, or it can be while true or any other condition. Then you bring a full column and then execute your block of code. That is while loop. Don't forget, if you want in-person training in Python, data analysis, web development, data science, and lots more, please chat the numbers above. Okay, now we want to look at while loop. What is while loop? While loop performs an iteration as long as a condition is true. A while loop performs a loop as long as a condition is true. Okay, let's try to explain this better. Using this example 1, we want to print 1, 2, 3. Now, let's declare the first number we want to print to be 1. While number, which is 1, is less than or equals to 3. This means while number 1 is less than or equals to 3, yes. So the loop will be executed, print number. So we want to continue to print number as long as number, which is 1 here, is less than or equals to 3. What do you expect? Let's run the code. You can see it continues to print number because number 1 is always less than or equals to 3. So because this is always true, the loop is always executed. You can see it continues to print 1. But this is not what I want. I want to print 1 to 3. That means I have to find a way to increment this number 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. Let's stop the execution. Now, if I increase number 1, which is equals to number 1 plus 1. This is the same thing as saying number plus equals 1. Which one should I use? Any of the two. So now, after printing the first 1, it will increment number. So number, which is 1 plus 1 equals 2. So the new number now is 2. So it will check for 2. While 2 is less than or equals to 3, execute. Print number, it will print 2. Now increment number again. So number, which is 2 plus 1, is now 3. It will be stored in number. So while 3 is less than or equals to 3, print number. It is still true, it will print number. Now increment number, which is 3 plus 1, it will stop 4 inside number. Is 4 less than or equals to 3? The answer is no, so it will not execute the inner code again. It will stop. So while loop performs an iteration as long as a condition is true. So the only thing I did is to make sure the condition terminates at a particular time, which is just by incrementing the number. So let's run now. You can see it prints 1, 2, 3. So yourself, you can write a program to print 1 to 100, 1 to 20, 1 to 1 million, etc. Now, let's look at another example. Print number until the user enters 0. Okay, so we want the user to enter a particular number and we want to test the number. So, and we want the loop to continue to be true to execute if the user does not enter 0. So let's try to get the number from the user. Number equals input So we have to convert the input to integer. Input, enter a number. Now we have gotten the number. Let's say the person enters 2. Now let's iterate. While the 2 the person enters is not equal to 0. Yes, if the person enters 2, 2 is not equal to 0. That means we can execute. We can execute the inner code. So print, let's say f string, which we have taught before. You entered. I want to mention what the person entered, which is 2. You enter 2. Now, what does this mean? Okay, let's try to run the code. Enter a number 2. You can see it continues to say you entered 2, you entered 2, you entered 2, you entered 2. We have to find a way to stop this. So let's stop it first. In order to stop this, we want to always ask the user, enter a number. So I have to find a way to write enter a number again. Number equals int input, enter a number. So at the end of the day, okay, let's try to run first. Enter a number 2. So to come and check 2, while 2 is not equals to 0, yes, 2 is not equals to 0, it will come for execution and ask for a number again. So let's run. You can see it has printed, you entered 2 and asked for a number again. Okay, so the number entered will also be checked again because it's the loop until this condition is not satisfied. That is when the loop will stop. So to come and check the number entered again, if I enter 3, it will print 3 and tell me to enter another number because this is always part of the loop. So it will always ask me after printing to enter a number. So let me enter 4. It will print 4 and ask me to enter a number. Let me enter 0 now. So why 0 is not equals to 0, you can see the loop has terminated. So if the loop terminates, I want to say the end. That means I have to go outside the loop and write the end. So print the end. Okay, let's run our program again. Enter a number 3, enter a number 4, enter a number 8, enter a number 0, then the end. Okay, in order to strengthen our knowledge on while loop, we want to write a program that checks the strength of the password entered by a user, the length of the password. If it is greater than 8, the password is strong. Otherwise, we say the password is short. The user has 3 attempts and he has option to quit after the first attempt. Okay, because the user has 3 attempts, then we can use a while loop for this program. Okay, now we have to find a way to terminate the program after 3 attempts. So that should be our first assignment. So in order to be able to terminate, so we have to make sure we are trying to look at the first iteration, second iteration, and the third iteration, then the program ends. So we can just say, we can write attempt to be initialized to 1. So we can say while attempt, which is 1, is less than or equals to 3. This is true. Then the code below will be executed. So we now say password, we declare variable called password equals input, which is enter a password. Now the meaning is that the first loop, it will ask the user to enter the password because attempt, which is 1, is less than or equals to 3. Okay. Now, but it is not a good idea for me to add code this 3. So it is better I declare a variable called max underscore attempt, which is 3. So instead of using 3 here, I will use max underscore attempt. Now I've told the user to enter the password. I want to check the length of the password and say it is strong if the length is greater than 8. So now let me check the password I entered. If password, but I want to check the length, so I will use the length function password. So this will return the length. It can return 8, it can return 5. It depends on what the user entered as the password. So if the length of the password is greater than or equals to 8, I want to print password is strong. Else, I want to say print password is too short. Now, I have successfully tested or examined the password entered. But now, let's run the program and see the output. Enter a password. Let me enter a password that is strong. Let me enter OLELALALALA. This should be more than 8. Password is strong. You can see it goes to the loop again. Enter a password because the attempt, which is 1, is less than or equals to maximum attempt, which is 3, until I find a way to increment this attempt such that the number catches up with the max attempt, and this will not be true again. Definitely the inner loop will also not be executed. So I have to come down and say attempt equals attempt plus 1, or I simply write attempt plus equals 1. So any of the two is good, but I prefer the first one. It's more readable. So now let's run the program again. I terminate, I run. Enter a password. Let me enter a very long password. Password is strong. Let me enter a password again. Password is strong again. Now we have how many attempts? 3 attempts. Password is strong, then the code is terminated because the attempt has catched up with the max attempt. So after terminating the loop, I'll come outside the loop and print password validation ended. So let's write the first attempt, second attempt. Let me make the third attempt to not be strong. Password is too short. Then it terminates because it is the third attempt. Okay, now we want to look at infinite loop. An infinite loop is a loop that will continue execution without a stop. And we can use true keyword to achieve infinite loop. Infinite loop is not good. We should have a way to terminate the infinite loop. Let's look at age. Let's give it a value of 30. I want to say while true. While true means it will always be true. Then print age. So let's try to run this. So I want to continue to print age because true is always going to be true. So this is not a good practice, but this is what we call infinite loop. Let's terminate the loop. Okay. An infinite loop can also occur when a particular condition is always true. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to use true. As long as the condition is true, it's going to be an infinite loop. For example, let's say age. Let's try to clear this. Let's say age is given a value of 30. Now while age is greater than 10. Can you see this? While age is greater than 10. Yes, age is greater than 10. So print. You can enter. Now look at this very well. Age greater than 10 is always true because age is 30. Because there's no way for us to increment age. So age is always greater than 10. So you can enter, we continue to execute. You can see, you can enter, you can enter, you can enter. Let's terminate. Here, I did not use a true keyword, but this condition is always true. So it will give an infinite loop. So the best practice is for us to always find a way to terminate our infinite loop. Okay, let's try a simple password checker or validator or authenticator. Check if user's password is correct. So we have a password stored in our database to be Ola. Continue to allow him to try until the password is correct, then you break out of the loop. So we want to first try our infinite loop, then we'll see a way to terminate the infinite loop using the break keyword. Okay, let's try. You can use the true keyword, while true. Then let's say the user password, that's the password the user wants to enter, equals input, enter your password. If password you entered equals to the password, if user underscore password equals to the password stored in the database, then we want to print correct password, else print incorrect password. Now this is an infinite loop. Why? Because true is always going to be true. So let's try to run this. Enter a password. Let me enter a correct password. Let me enter Ola. It will still ask, enter a password, Ola. Let me enter an incorrect password. Incorrect password. It will still tell me to enter a password. Now, in order to terminate this, I can just Once the password is correct, say correct password and terminate. Probably termination is the login. So we'll break out of the loop. So let's run again. So let's enter a wrong password, a wrong password, a wrong password, a wrong password. Now let's enter the correct password and see if the loop terminates. So let's say Ola. Can you see correct password and there's a termination of the loop? Hello. We want to write a very interesting program called Simple Bank App. And the bank app is going to be able to allow us to deposit money, withdraw money, or exit if we are not interested in doing any of the two. Let's look at the sample by the right hand side. It says, welcome to Simple Bank App. I'm very sure you can do this. It's just a print statement. Your current balance is 0, so we have to be able to initialize our current balance. Then asks us deposit, withdraw, or exit. If a user enters deposit, then it should request the user to enter the amount, and it should add the amount to the initial balance and print $3,000 deposited. This is one iteration. If the user wants to withdraw, amount to withdraw, they subtract the amount to withdraw from the current balance and print amount withdrawn. So this is second iteration, and this is another iteration in case the user enters a wrong operation, which is withdrew instead of writing withdraw. You should tell it invalid, please choose deposit, withdraw, or exit. Then another iteration, the user exits and it says thank you for banking with us. So here we have to perform loop, while loop. So let's start with initiating our welcome to the Simple Bank App. So we use a print statement, print welcome to Simple Bank App. So the first line here is done. Now we need to print the current balance. So we need to initialize our balance to be 0. Balance given a value of 0. But now, because I always want to print the current balance every time the loop is initiated, that means printing of the current balance will be inside the loop. So let's look at the loop. Let's just use the true, while true, print. Can use f string because we want to insert the variable which is balance inside our string. So say your current balance is, okay, we can just say placeholder. We are able to put this placeholder because we put an F before the string quotation, before the quotation here. So we can now insert our variable balance. So your current balance is this. And after saying your current balance is 0, we want to tell the user to perform an operation, deposit, withdraw, or exit. So we have to ask him. Let's say the action is a variable that will store that, given a value of. Let the user enter. We can just say deposit, withdraw, or exit. So we expect the user to type any of these 3. Now, let's assume the user types deposit and the user write it in capital letter. So that deposit, so let's compare the if action equals to deposit. Now, which means if the user enters deposit here and that deposit equals to deposit, then I want to execute the following code. But what if the user enters a capital letter, which means the action here will be capital letter? If capital letter deposit equals small letter deposit, they cannot be equal. Definitely the code below the if statement will not be executed. To prevent that, anything coming from the user should be converted to lowercase, which is the case of this comparison deposit. So the two of them will always be lowercase and they will be equal, and the next line of action will be executed. So we have solved that problem. So if action equals deposit, don't forget, we now want to let the user enter the amount to deposit. So we say amount equals, we have to convert the input coming from the user to an integer or float. Let's convert it to float, which is decimal number. So convert to float what? Input from the user. So enter amount to deposit. So we expect that the amount to be added to the initial balance. To do that, so what's the balance? Balance is 0. So the new balance will be the initial balance, which is 0, plus the amount entered. This can be written as balance plus equals amount. This is short form, but I prefer the long form because it is more readable. So after adding, I still want to print the amount deposited. So say print. I can use my F string. I can now say the variable name. So the reason why I'm using the F is because I want to insert the variable inside this string, inside this quotation. So I'll say, how much did I deposit? So amount, which is, amount deposited. So the amount the user enters will come in, which is probably, if it's 3,000, you say 3,000 deposited. But it should be in dollars. So before the placeholder curly brace, I'll put the dollar. So this is done. Don't forget, we can now proceed to the second loop because we are using a while true. So it will proceed. What if action? So now we are done with the deposit. So it will go back to the loop. Since we are done with this, it will say, it will print the current balance again. It will ask the user, deposit, withdraw, or exit. So because the loop is while true, so it will continue to ask after execution to continue to come back up here. So when it comes back up, I don't want deposit. I want to perform another operation. So it will skip. If I'm not putting deposit as the operation, let's say I put withdraw, it will skip this and go to the next line, which is this. So if action equals withdraw, so let me enter the amount to be withdrawn. So float, input, enter amount to withdraw. So I expect the user to enter the amount. And what is the next thing? What if the amount is, let's say I want to withdraw 5,000, but the balance is 3,000. So the amount should always, that you want to withdraw should always be less than the balance. So I want to say if amount is greater than the balance, so it should write print insufficient funds. Else, which means if the amount is less than, so else, you should do what? You should now perform the withdrawal. So what's the withdrawal? So the balance equals balance minus the amount. So it will take the amount you want to withdraw, let's say 1,000, it will subtract it from the current balance, let's say 3,000, and store the final value as a new balance, 2,000. So we can write it in a short form and say balance plus equals amount. So I prefer the first one because it is explanatory. Now, the next thing I want to do is, what if the user did not enter withdraw? Let's say the user enter exit. So I want to say elif. Sorry, here I'm supposed to use elif instead of if. Elif means if the first condition is not true, then go to the second condition. So I want to perform another condition. So I'll use elif action equals exit. So I want to break out of the loop. But before that, I want to say thank you for banking with us. So print, thank you for banking with us, and break out of the loop. Now, if the user does not enter deposit, withdraw, or exit, and the user enters something unknown, let's say instead of spelling withdraw, it writes withdrew, that's going to be an invalid action. So let's say else. Else means I want to terminate all my conditions. Else, if all the following conditions up are not true, then perform this last one. So print invalid action. Then I want to tell the user, please choose deposit, withdraw, or exit. So you can see my program is complete now. So let's run our program. Okay. Welcome to Simple Bank app. Your current balance is 0. Deposit. Okay, let me just add a line, a print here. So let me run again. Stop and rerun. You can see there's a space between welcome to Simple Bank app and the first line here. Your current balance is 0. So before the current balance is 0, I want to have a space. So that's why I put before it print. So let me say deposit. Enter amount. Let me say 3,000. You can see 3,000 deposited. So it will, after executing this, so it go back to the while loop again from the beginning. That is the essence of the while true. So your current balance is this, deposit, withdraw, exit. Let me skip this deposit. Let me go to withdraw. So withdraw. So it will skip deposit because the action is not deposit. So enter amount to withdraw. Let's say 1,000. You can see your current balance is 2,000. Deposit, withdraw, or exit. Let me enter something that is not deposit. Let me just say this to tell me invalid action. Please choose deposit, withdraw, or exit. Let me now exit for real. So thank you for banking with us.